is the explanation for area and surface area, the pre-assessment. So we're going to go over how to go through each of the problems after you've graded it. You shouldn't be watching this video until after you've taken the pre-assessment and submitted your score. So the first one, it says find the area. We have a circle. We should know that the area of a circle, the formula is pi r squared. We're going to plug in 3.14 for pi, and our radius is 3 meters, quantity squared. So area is going to equal 3.14 times 9 meters squared. We need to remember that we're multiplying 3m times 3m. 3 times 3 is 9. M times m is m squared. And then we have 3.14 times 9m squared, which gives us 28.26 meters squared. What's the area for the circle? Now notice this circle gives us a different piece of information. It gives us the diameter this time. We're still going to use the same formula, area equals pi r squared. We're still going to plug in 3.14 for pi, but this time our radius is half of the diameter. So that makes our radius 5 miles, and we're going to square that. So we get 3.14, 5 miles squared gives us 25 miles, square miles. And then we're going to multiply 3.14 times 25 miles squared, which gives us 28.5 miles squared. It's the area for that circle with a diameter of 10 miles. Number 3, our shape is a parallelogram. So the formula for a parallelogram is area equals base times height. Remember, our base must be one of the sides of the figure. So it either needs to be this side or this side or this side or this side. So it has to be one of the sides. I'm going to pick this as my base because I have a value, I have a height that is the distance from the bottom of the figure to the top of it. So my base is going to be 7 yards. And my height, which must be perpendicular to the base that I pick, will be 2 yards. And then 7 yards times 2 yards gives us 14 yards square. Our next figure is a triangle. Formula for a triangle is base times height divided by 2. Again, when we're looking at our base, it needs to be one of the sides of the figure. It can be that, it can be this, or this. So we don't pick this because we don't have a distance from the base to the top of the object that is perpendicular. There's no information given there. We can't pick this because we don't even know what that distance is. And so we have to pick this as our base. And this tells us this is good because we have a perpendicular height to that base. So my base is going to be 12 centimeters. My height is going to be 4.4 centimeters divided by 2. 12 centimeters times 4.4 centimeters gives me 52.8 centimeters squared divided by 2. And then I take half of 52.8 centimeters squared and I get 26.4 centimeters squared. That'll be the area of that triangle. Number 5 is a square. The formula for the area of a square is area equals s squared, where s represents the side. A side, all sides are equal in a square. So my side length is 11 meters. Quantity squared gives me 121 meters squared. Number 6 is a rectangle. Area equals base times height. The base, again, can be any one of these sides, but the base must be a side on the figure. If I pick this as my base, do I have a height or the distance from the base to the top of the object? Yes, I do. That is perpendicular. So I'm going to use 7.4 inches as my base and 11 inches as my height. 7.4 inches times 11 inches gives me 81.4 inches squared. Note that you could have used 11 as your base and then 7.4 as your height because, again, 11 inches is a side of the object and the 7.4 measures the distance from the base to the top of the object. They'll still give you the same value. Number 7 is a trapezoid. The formula for a trapezoid is 1/2 the height times the quantity b sub 1 plus b sub 2. H represents the height, b sub 1 and b sub 2 represent the bases of the trapezoid. Remember, these bases must be parallel to each other. So if we want to find the bases, we know that they have to be the ones that are parallel. Those two lines are parallel. These two lines are not parallel. So the green ones cannot be the bases. The only two that can be the base are the two parallel sides. And so we know that our bases, b sub 1 and b sub 2, will be the parallel lines, and my height, remember, my height needs to be perpendicular. And it's the distance from the base to the top of the object. So that's how we're going to look at that. Let's start filling in the pieces of information. The height is 9 feet. B sub 1, we'll make it be the top one. It doesn't matter. It can be either one. It can be the top or the bottom. And then b sub 2, if 11.8, the top one is my first base, my other base needs to be the other parallel base. So we'll choose the bottom one. Come on. My pencil's not going to work today, just for consistency. All right, so we have 1/2 of 9 feet, which is 4.5 feet. And then we have 11.8 feet plus 4.8 feet, which gives me 16.6 feet. And then we're going to multiply 16.6 feet times 4.5 feet, and we get the area is 74.7 feet squared. That would be your trapezoid. So those are all of the area problems that you will see on the pre-assessment. Now we're going to move towards surface area. So we remember, first thing we have to do is we have to look and see how many bases does this figure have. It has 2 bases. It has this as a base, and then its other base would be up on the top here. And those bases always have to be parallel in order to be. So since it's a 2-base figure, we know that it's a prism. And then we look to see what the shape of the base is. Well, the shape of the base is a square. So this would be considered a square prism. Now we know that surface area of all prisms is going to be lateral area plus 2 times big B, which represents the base area. So my lateral area, remember on all prisms, lateral area is going to be the perimeter of that base times the height plus 2 times the base shape. The base shape is a square, so we put in the area formula for the area of a square. So my perimeter is the distance around the base. If this is my base in yellow, the distance around it is going to be 5 miles plus 5 miles plus 5 miles plus 5 miles. So my perimeter is going to be this, 5 miles plus 5 miles plus 5 miles. And then it's times the height. The height is the distance between the 2 bases. In this case, it's 8 miles. and then it's plus 2 times my base shape, my base area, excuse me, which is S squared. My base is the square in the bottom, so S, a side, is 5 miles, quantity squared. So now we're going to start simplifying this. So 5 miles plus 5 miles plus 5 miles plus 5 miles gives me 20 miles. And we're going to multiply that by the height. And 5 miles quantity squared gives me 25 miles squared. 8 miles times 20 miles gives me 160 miles. And 2 times 25 miles squared gives me 50 miles squared. 160 miles squared, sorry, forgot that, square. 160 miles squared plus 50 miles squared gives me 210 miles squared. That would be the surface area of this square prism. The next figure, number 9, we got to pick our base. I'm going to pick a less traditional base. I'm going to call this my base, and then the parallel base is going to be up here. So that shape of my base is a rectangle. I see that it has 2 bases, 2 base shape, so we know that it's a prism. And the shape of the base is a rectangle. So this is a rectangular prism. So surface area of all prisms is going to be lateral area plus 2 big B, 2 base areas. My lateral area is still going to be the perimeter of the base times the height plus 2 times the base shape. Well, the shape is a rectangle. So we know the area for a rectangle is base times height. So now let's fill in the pieces of information. My perimeter around my base, the perimeter is 7 miles plus 4 miles plus 7 miles plus 4 miles. And I get that 4 miles from this because it's parallel to that. Remember, if we just move it and it's the same place. So that's where I got that perimeter. So my perimeter is 7 miles plus 4 miles plus 7 miles plus 4 miles times the height. Now the height is the distance between the 2 objects, or the 2 bases, excuse me. So that distance, that 4 miles, is my height. Height is always going to be the distance between the 2 bases. And then it's 2 times the base of the rectangle. So now we have to look at this rectangle alone, just this purple line. So the base is going to be 7 miles, and I'm going to multiply that by the height. This is the height of that rectangle, which is 4 miles. All right, so now let's do a little simplifying. 7 miles plus 4 miles plus 7 miles plus 4 miles gives me 22 miles. And we're going to multiply that by the height, which is 4 miles. And we have 2 times 7 miles times 4 miles, which gives us 28 miles squared. We're going to multiply 22 miles times 4 miles, which gives me 88 miles squared. And we're going to multiply 2 times 28 miles, which gives me 56 miles squared. 2 times 28 miles squared, excuse me. And then we have 88 miles squared plus 56 miles squared, which gives us a total of 144 miles squared. That would be the surface area of that rectangular prism. Number 10, how many bases? Well, let's find the base. So remember, these bases must be parallel. So the figure that I pick, if I pick this bottom triangle down on the bottom here, if I pick that, can I find a triangle that is parallel to it? Yeah, the top triangle would be parallel to that. So those are my 2 bases. So I know this is a 2 base figure. So I know it's a prism. And then my base shape is a triangle. So this is called a triangular prism. Since it's a prism, surface area is always going to be lateral area plus 2 times your base area. Lateral area is always going to be the perimeter times the height plus 2 times the base shape. My base shape is a triangle. So the formula for a triangle is base times height divided by 2. All right, perimeter. What's the distance around my base? The distance around my base is 9 meters, 4 meters, and then 9 meters. So my perimeter is 9 meters plus 4 meters plus 9 meters. And I'm going to multiply that by the height, the distance between the two bases. 2 meters plus 2. Now my base of my triangle. So let's erase this because let's look at my triangle. And let's look at the bottom one. Look at the one at the bottom here. So these sides. If I took this side right here, I don't have a perpendicular height. I don't have a distance from the base to the top. So we can't use this bottom line as a base. What if I used, if we're looking at the bottom one, that's my base on the bottom. Do I have a distance from the base to the top that is perpendicular? Nope. So I need to use this line, which is 9 meters, because I have a perpendicular base from the bottom of the object to the top. So my base is going to be 9 meters times the height, which is 3.9 meters, divided by 2. That would be my base area. So let's start simplifying. 9 meters plus 4 meters plus 9 meters gives me 22 meters times 2 meters times the height. This is the perimeter. That's the distance around the base. Times 2. And then we have 9 meters times 3.9 meters, which is 35.1 meters squared, divided by 2. 22 meters times 2 meters gives me 44 meters squared. Let's do a little saving of time. 2 is in the numerator, 2 is in the denominator. They're going to cancel to make 1. So that leaves me with 35.1 meters squared. And 44 meters squared plus 35.1 meters squared gives me 79.1 meters squared. That didn't look like a point. Good. Now we have a cylinder. So let's take a little look-see at our cylinder. We have 2 bases. And let's do the bases. We've got this as one base. And we've got the other circle that is parallel to it as my other base. So it is 2-base figure. So when we talk about circular bases, we call this a cylinder. And the base shape is a circle. So it's a circular prism known as a cylinder. It's not a circular cylinder because all cylinders are circular. We actually just call it a cylinder. And the surface area equals still lateral area plus 2 times the base area. My lateral area, instead of using the perimeter, because when we talk about circles, we're going to talk about it's the circumference times the height plus 2 times the area of my base. My area of a circle is pi r squared. So what is the circumference? Well, that's going to be 2 pi r is the formula for circumference of a circle times the height plus 2 pi r squared. So let's start putting in values. 2 times pi, we're going to use 3.14 times the radius, which is 12 meters, times the height, the distance between the two bases, 8 meters, plus 2 times pi, which is 3.14, times the radius, which is 12 meters, quantity squared. 2 times 3.14 is 6.28. 12 meters times 8 meters gives me 96 meters squared. 2 times 3.14 still gives me 6.28. 12 meters squared gives me 144 meters squared. 6.28, where are we? Here we go. 6.28 times 96 meters squared gives me 602.88 meters squared. 6.28 times 144 gives me 904.32 meters squared. Add those two values together, we get 1,507.2 meters squared. That would be the surface area of that cylinder. Now we move to single base figures. So how many bases? We have one base. So it's going to be either a pyramid or a cone. This is a, no, that's not a pyramid. And what's the base shape? The base shape is going to be a square. So this is called a square pyramid. Surface area of a square pyramid is still lateral area plus base area. Notice there's not 2 in front of it because we don't have 2 bases. We only have a single base. The lateral area is going to be, it consists of 4 faces, 4 triangles. So lateral area is going to be 4 times. Now let's think about the shape of that face on the lateral area. It's a triangle. So it's base times height divided by 2. And then my base shape is a square. So let's talk about the lateral area. We have 4 times the quantity base times height divided by 2. So let's erase this. So what I see here is I have this triangle right here. That's one of the faces. I have another one right here. And then I have another one on the back side. The back side of that, back here. And then I've got one, that would technically be on the left side. And then I have one in the way back. So I have 4 triangles that are identical. So that's where my base and height. So the base of that triangle is going to be 7 feet. And the height, what we also is called slant height. The slant height is on the outer face. So my base of that lateral area is going to be 7 feet. The height is going to be 12.5 feet. And then divide by 2 because that shape is a triangle. Plus, now we're talking about the base. And that base is a square. So the area for a square is s squared. One of the sides is 7 feet, quantity squared. Now let's start simplifying. 4 times 7 feet times 12.5 feet is 87.5 feet squared divided by 2 plus 49 feet squared. That's 7 feet squared. Now let's do some quick math here. We can just divide, we can cross cancel the 4 in the numerator and the 2 in the denominator. So we get 2 times 87.5 feet squared plus 49 feet squared. And 2 times 87.5 feet squared gives me 175 feet squared plus 49 feet squared gives me a total of 224 feet squared. Because it's a square base, we're going to have 4 lateral faces. When we move on to this one, which is a triangular base, we're only going to have 3 lateral faces. So we have a single base. So we know that it's a pyramid. Did I spell pyramid wrong over on that other one? I did. Pyramid. Nice, Mr. Mac. Pyramid. You probably were thinking that. I knew it. And my base shape here, this time, is a triangle. So a triangle has three sides. So when I'm looking at my surface area equals my lateral area plus my base, my lateral area is only going to have three triangles. And then my base shape this time is a triangle. So my base shape, my base, is this triangle. My lateral area is going to be this triangle, the top one. So let's fill in the pieces of information. So when I talk about my lateral area, I'm talking about the green. So the base of the green is going to be 8 miles. That's this one right here. I'm getting that from this piece right here. And then the height, that slant height, is going to be there because I'm talking about the lateral area. So 8 miles times 10.3 miles divided by 2 because it's a triangle. And now we're talking about my base. Now we're talking about this. So now I'm talking about this. Oh, what's that color? Let's talk about. Now I'm talking about this, and the base is in the bottom. So that's going to be the base of my base, and then the height of that is going to be that perpendicular. Because remember, the base is the bottom one. So my base is 8 miles times the height of that base is 6.9 miles, and then quantity squared. So let's simplify. We have 3 times 8 miles times 10.3 miles gives me 82.4 miles squared divided by 2 plus 8 miles times 6.9 miles gives me 55.2 miles squared divided by 2. Let's do 82.4 miles squared divided by 2 gives me 41.2 miles squared. And then 55.2 miles squared divided by 2 gives me 27.6 miles squared. 3 times 41.2 miles squared gives me 123.6 miles squared plus 27.6 miles squared for a total surface area of 151.2 miles squared. Good. All right, last one, number 14. So we have a cone, we have one base. One base typically is called a pyramid. I still can't spell pyramid. However, in this case, it's called a cone because the base shape is a circle. So we don't call it a circular cone, we just call it a cone. Surface area equals the lateral area plus the single base. Now this is where it gets interesting. The lateral area is pi RH. And then the base shape is a circle, so we're going to have pi r squared. So pi, we're going to plug in 3.14. The radius, notice they give us the diameter, so don't put 24 feet. It wants the radius, which would be 12 feet, times the height, and the height here is called the slant height, is 26.8 feet. That's the exterior slant, plus pi, which is 3.14, and the radius again is 12 feet quantity squared. That is a formula that you should memorize. So 3.14 times 12 feet gives me 37.68 feet squared. Nope, not squared because it's just feet in pi, times 26.8 feet plus 3.14 times 12 feet squared. 12 feet squared is 144 feet squared. 37.68 feet times 26.8 feet gives me 1,009.824 feet squared. And 3.14 times 144 gives me 452.16 feet squared. Add those together, you get 1,461.984 feet squared. Woo! Good luck. This is a long video. Come and see me during office hours or the extra help hours at 1 if you have any questions on these. Thanks for your time and for getting this far.